Hi, I'm Randy Davis, and today we're here with Chris Carlisle. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Good. Chris is the president of Fox 21, and he's going to be speaking with us today about his career and what he's doing, and all about the business and how it's changing. So, welcome.
Thank you very much.
If you could just tell us a little bit about your career, how you got to the position of president, and some of the highlights of things that you've gone through over the course of the last, 10 years or so.
I'd love to. It's, I would think, a unique way of getting into the business, but I started at the age of 22 at NBC in New York in the on-air promotion department, which at that point I had never heard of on-air promotion, didn't know what it was, and but they wanted to hire me, and it was a Writers Guild job. I had been in the Writers Guild during college working at a radio station here in New York, and I worked with some of the great pioneers of modern day television. Was heavily influenced by Brandon Tartikoff and Grant Tinker and Fred Silverman. When I got there, they basically got rid of everybody over the age of 30, which obviously you can't do today, but they just, cleaned house and brought in a bunch of really young kids to just work about 16 hours a day. Because they felt that, regardless, they were the third horse in a three-horse race at that point. And, they felt regardless of what the show is, if they promoted it properly, if they positioned it right, that they could make it a hit, which, whether it's true or not, don't know, but they certainly did put a lot of stock in the promotion of the shows, which was a great thing for me to learn, from these great masters. And Grant Tinker was pretty amazing in that when he came in, he basically said, I want to hire the best people I can, best creative people, best production people, and then let them do what they do best, which that was the first time I had heard that, because Fred Silverman was a micromanager, and he really, really wanted to have his hands on every little bit of the process. And he's obviously done very well for himself over the years, so that's one way of approaching it. And Brandon Tartikoff was very different, was very young, and just had a real gut vision. I mean, Fred was, they used to say he had the golden gut because he would just make all these gut calls. And Brandon was the same way. Brandon really just would see something and have a vision, or someone would pitch him something, and he would just green light it in the room because he would know that this is something that I think is going to work. Mm-hmm. So growing up with those guys, it was really pretty amazing for me. And then also working in news and working in sports and working in late night, worked with the Saturday Night Live people for years, doing promos for their shows, which meant that every week I would write something for a shoot promo for whoever the guest host was. So it was everything from Robin Williams to Charlton Heston to Steve Martin or O.J. Simpson, and you would be being able to interface with those people and talk to them and write scripts with them, and it was a lot of fun. Even though they were only 30 seconds long, you learned a lot. There was a lot of pressure to be able to do something interesting in 30 seconds. So I think over the years that on-air promotion background was really a very important building block for me, because you do have to crystallize something and capture somebody's attention in 30 seconds. And then after that, you progress up through the ranks and get into a broader marketing position, which it took me to the next step of my career.
Right. Now, you mentioned Tartikoff and Tinker and Silverman as being kind of people that you were lucky to be around. Were there other people, as your career progressed, that also had that kind of an influence on you?
Absolutely. I spent a lot of years at NBC, they moved me out to LA, and I worked for 5 years in LA, and then went to ABC, and I worked with Bob Iger, and he was really interesting. He's obviously at this point in time in a very exalted position at the top of Disney, right. But I got to know him at a really interesting time when he was just being bred. He was being seasoned to take the reins at ABC. And so got to know him. When I got over to Fox years later, I think the most influential two people I met and worked with very closely and still do is Peter Chernin and Rupert Murdoch. Rupert and Peter Chernin are incredibly unique individuals. Peter worked is just one of those people who such an impressive executive to be in charge of News Corporation and all of its far-flung interests in publishing and in television around the world. He is got an incredible mind and ability to just extemporaneously talk about any of the businesses and do it in a way that's engaging. It's incredibly, he has an acute mind, so you see the intelligence behind what he's saying, and he makes you bring your A game. You do not go in front of that man unless you have your A game, and you better do your homework. And it was one of those things that at that point I learned, a greater sophistication to the job that I was doing.